Welcome to Leaders Edge Network. This is part 3 of our kvCore basic training with focus on creating, importing, and maintaining your client relationship database. My name is Deanna Faye Brown. I'm the team leader of the Connection Realtors Mega Icon team and a member of Leaders Edge Network. Let's take a quick look at where we've come so far in our kvCore journey. In session 1, I showed you how to activate your kvCore account and set up your profile. Then in session 2, we talked about ways that you could personalize your website, really allowing your personality, your credentials, and your resume to come through. Now we move to session 3, where we'll talk about leveraging the client relationship management function of kvCore, the heart and soul of this platform. Let's take a look. And you go down to on the left-hand side to the very bottom to support and training. kvCore is going to provide you with a template, and I encourage everybody to start here. Go to support and training, support docs, and it will lead you here to some resources that kvCore provides to all of its users. If you click in this first square, the first tile under the basics, click on import your leads. You do have the ability to pursue getting assistance from kvCore. I do believe that comes with a price tag, but honestly, if you can get this far and download this template, I think you've done most of the heavy lifting already. I've imported my own template of contacts, and it's really not a difficult process. There's also a video that if our information today isn't easy to follow or you get tripped up somewhere, there are additional videos here that you can leverage made directly by kvCore to help talk you through the process. But what you want to do is go ahead and download this template. If you leverage this template, then the import process should go very smoothly because the template fields here match up very well to the template fields within kvCore. When you download that template, it's going to look like this. It's going to be completely empty, obviously. But at the top of the spreadsheet, it's going to have a label for each of the fields of data that you want to enter. So we're going to take a couple of minutes to just talk about what's really important to do here so that when you actually get to the moment where you want to import this into kvCore, that you're not going back and having to do a lot of editing and filling in the blanks. So what's absolutely necessary? I'm going to take you, I created a template that we can work through today and just put a couple of names on here, just people that I know that, so, don't go screenshotting and calling these people because they're going to think I'm crazy. But these are live people that I'm going to go ahead and add to my database. And I'm going to show you by example how to enter the information here so that it translates correctly, like I said, into kvCore. Okay, so obviously first and last name speaks for itself, right? Recognize that there are 2 separate fields for first and last name. You want to make sure that you enter a complete email address, whatever that may be. Make sure it's complete and that you're entering it correctly. Next is going to be sphere, and I'm going to come back to that in a minute. I'm going to talk about sphere, about hashtags, and about lead type over here in just a minute. So kind of put those on hold. Cell phone, you want to enter the person's cell phone. You want to use the 10-digit format with no other characters, spacing, just the direct 10-digit number. When it comes to the next field, letter H, the assigned agent, you want to use the email address associated with your kvCore account. So in this case, this is going to be your eXp Realty email. If you were on a team and you were building a database or a template that was going to be assigned to different team members, then the information that you would enter in this column would vary according to what agent was going to be assigned what lead. Most of you watching this video are dealing with your own individual account, so you'll always use your eXp email address here, okay? You don't need to enter a home phone number, but the next 3 fields, we're talking about columns J, K, and L, are going to be important. You want to make sure that you address these fields in the template. Email options, text options, and phone options. These 3 fields tell kvCore whether you have the authority, the permission to email this client, to text this client, or to call this client through kvCore's platform, okay? If you know that you can email the person but can't text or phone them, they don't want to receive any phone contact, then what you would do for that client, for that line, is you would put true under email, and then for text and phone, you would put false. And then what'll happen is, let's say that we put this person, this is a family member. So let's say I build a family campaign or a newsletter campaign that I want to reach out to people once a month to receive my newsletter. And then maybe I build in a once a year or twice a year phone call just to reach out to see how they're doing. If that was the case, if I had true, false, false, then this client on this campaign would receive my newsletter because they are opting in to the email platform, but they would not appear on my call sheet, on my task of calls in kvCore, because the permissions for that opportunity to call them would be false, would be turned off. Okay, so it's important that you understand what your permissions are client by client. If you're dealing with your initial template build and you're talking about your sphere, your family and friends, clients that you've worked with, in most cases, this is going to be true across the board. Don't leave it blank. Make sure you enter a value. Okay. So let's go back to those 3 fields that we sort of skipped over momentarily: status, hashtags, and lead type. I'm going to show you this slide that hopefully will maybe help you out a little bit. When you're deciding on a status, kvCore is going to give you 8 different options to choose from, and you can only select one. So, and you can change it if a client's status should change. For example, if they go from a prospect to an active lead, or if you're able to convert the lead to client, but you can't be more than one status at a time. So you might want to take a screenshot or make note of these options, because it will have to be one of these 8 values that you go back and enter here in column D for status. Okay. The other one, the next one, is hashtags. And I've sort of thrown out there a little bit in our last 2 sessions the concept of hashtags. In addition to kvCore's built-in sort of titles or relationship drivers, telling kvCore what your status is of a client, or telling them whether they're a seller, a buyer, a vendor, for example, you have the ability to create and customize how you look at your database on so many different levels. And I've just tried to give you some ideas here. Hashtags are meant to be personal to you, to how you work your business. And you should really think outside the box, because you can do a lot of very unique things with your kvCore and with your database based on how you set this up. You're not limited only in the moment that you create your template to upload. You can always add hashtags to your contacts. You can always create new hashtags to leverage, and you can always edit hashtags that you've given to a particular client. But these are some ideas to maybe help you understand. So let's say the first person on my list, I think, was Nancy. So let's say for Nancy, I'm going to have to select a status. So she's a family member, so I'm going to go ahead and select sphere for her status. But then let me think about hashtags. I want to build a monthly newsletter, and anybody that I know, I want to be able to receive that newsletter, because what I hope to include in there is some valuable content, not only about the market, but also some valuable content about home ownership or about preparing for the holidays. And I love food, and I'm Italian. So by nature, food is like my language. And so I always want to include a recipe. And so I want everybody on my list that's a family member to be able to receive that newsletter. So one of the things that I might do is create a hashtag and call it newsletter, so that when I build a campaign down the road, I can set up that campaign so that anybody with hashtag newsletter associated with their profile will receive that monthly email. I also might want to create a birthday campaign where I can touch anybody, once a month, the beginning of the month, to acknowledge that month's birthdays. So maybe your hashtag is whatever the month is, followed by the word birthday. Also, there's opportunities to leverage your network. If you are part of a networking group, if you are part of a town or a county networking association or a Rotary Club, or maybe part of the Elks, for example, you can create a hashtag that references that membership. So maybe Rotary member. Maybe you're big into fitness or into cars. I've mentioned in our last couple of sessions, if you do a lot of work with veterans, or maybe you yourself have a military background and you want to be able to take opportunities throughout the year to specifically touch and reach your veteran clients and sphere, you can use the word veteran as a hashtag. So the idea here is be creative, continue to build on hashtags, and recognize that as your business develops and grows, that how you use hashtags might continue to evolve. Don't lose this. Don't lose sight of this functionality and miss out on the opportunity there. The idea is to find ways to touch all of the people in your database in different and unique ways that separate your messaging from other messaging. Okay. And I think the more, in my personal opinion, the more ways that you can find to connect with people outside of strictly real estate, the more personal and connected those people feel to you. I think the better, even more warmly received your messages will be. Okay, that's just my 2 cents. So that's hashtags. The last status, actually, it's called lead type that you want to identify for kvCore for client template purposes is here, this lead type. Unlike status, where you can only choose one, lead type, you can choose multiple. So let's say, for example, I have a client on my list who is in a home that I know that they're going to be selling, or at some point I know that they're going to ultimately sell, but then that means they're ultimately going to buy. So I might identify them as a seller and a buyer. I might have a person in my sphere that is a renter, but I know at some point they're going to be ready to buy. So I might describe them not only as renter, but as buyer. So here with lead type, you can choose more than one of these categories, but it's these 5 categories that you choose from. No customization here. In the case of hashtags and in the case of lead type, where you can make more than one selection, when you enter them in that template in Excel, you're going to separate them with this lined separator, which you can find above the Enter key by using the Shift / button above the Enter key in between each of your hashtags or each of your lead types. So let's take a little walk back to my example with the few contacts that we're going to upload today. So here's Nancy, her first and last name, her email. I've gone ahead and identified her status as sphere. Remember, it has to be one of those 8. I've also given her a couple of hashtags here. I'm going to give her June birthday, and I'm going to give her a family hashtag. Maybe there might be something special that I want to do for family throughout the year. So I'm going to go ahead and build a family hashtag. I have her phone number. I'm going to call her a seller. I could also call her a buyer, but in all practicality, this is my mom, so I don't think she's going to be a buyer anytime soon. So for my purposes, I'm just going to go ahead and leave her as a seller for lead type. Again, we put in my email address, and I set her up to be able to receive my emails, receive my texts, and receive my phone calls. Okay. Let's say for Vinny, just to give you an example, same thing, first name, last name, email, set him up as a sphere contact. Now, what I also did here with Vinny is not only did I set him up for a potential birthday campaign and as a family member, but he's also a past client. And how I've elected to establish my hashtags, I use past seller and past buyer. So I went ahead here and added past seller. and you'll see how each of these hashtags is separated by that line indicator, again, found above the enter key. Cell phone, I identified his lead type. I'm going to go ahead and add a separator and also identify him as a buyer. He's a homeowner, so you never know the opportunity to sell and then buy. My EXP email address, and then I have him set up for email, texting, and phone. So you'll see through this template in showing you these examples, I'm spending most of my time on these first, what it is, maybe 12 columns or so, A through L. There are a number of additional columns that will take you clear past the end of the alphabet. So you probably have another 20 to 22 columns here where you can continue to build the profile for each client that you're adding to your database. If you have a mailing address, you can enter it here. So if you have any intention or expectation of maybe leveraging print marketing materials, if you do a postcard mailing program, it might be really convenient and easy for you to build that information right in here, because you can always export your contact lists out of kvCore to build your mailing labels or upload your file for direct mail campaigns, okay? You also have the ability to identify additional information that further defines this client. If you had a closing with them in the past, it'll reference the date. That could be valuable depending on the type of campaign that you build, that you might want to build a certain campaign for somebody who has closed within the last year. So maybe at the end of the year when you're sending a Thanksgiving email or a holiday email, you're acknowledging anybody who you've worked with over the course of the year. You can enter spouse information. You can also add details about what area, what location, what price point, square footage, age of the home, size of the lot, bedroom, bathroom. So if you know these details, if some information comes in from a lead, if they've entered information in a search on your website, if you've had a conversation with them and they've given you an indication of what they're looking for, you have the ability to make essentially notes about that conversation and about the information that you've received from them, all right here in their kvCore profile, okay? You also have the ability to add notes if you wanted to customize and just sort of put in whatever additional information that you receive from the client that's pertinent. And then of course you have the ability to put in birthday, which goes back to my my point earlier about a birthday campaign. Okay, so I'm not going to enter birthdays for right now, but I will once I go and build, if I actually go through and build a birthday campaign, that information is going to be important in that last field in AH, column AH, in order for that birthday campaign to actually execute, okay? Once I have my database complete and I'm ready to begin the upload process, before we go back to kvCore, we want to go ahead and take this Excel spreadsheet and save it as a CSV file. So the way that I would do that is I would just go up to File and select Save As. Now what I usually like to do is actually put the words CSV into the title so I don't confuse it when I go to import it into kvCore. So I know I'm pulling the CSV file. I also have to change here the file type that I'm saving it as. It's going to automatically try to save it as an Excel workbook. I want to scroll down and find CSV, okay, right here. So it'll save it as a .csv file. So I'm going to go ahead and select that and then hit save. Okay. Can everybody still hear me? Yeah? Okay, good. Thank you, Noel. Okay. So now I'm ready to go to kvCore. So let's head back there and we're going to go ahead and import our database. I'm going to go to Lead Engine and I'm going to, up in the top right-hand corner, look for bulk lead import, okay? You'll see here again, kvCore does a really good job in this area of giving you information. So if you want them to handle the import, you can watch the video to the left. If you just want a refresher after seeing our presentation today and want to see kvCore again talk you through the import process, you can watch this video here to do it yourself, okay? Once you're ready, you're going to just scroll down a little bit under Do It Yourself and click Get Started. When I click Get Started, it's going to take me to a place where I have to either drag and drop my file or browse for my file. I'm going to go ahead and browse. And I'm going to find the file that I created today. And remember, I added CSV to the name. Okay, so that's the one that I want to select. And it's going to go ahead and import that file. Okay, so now take a look at what happens here on the import screen. It's identified my 3 contacts, okay, and see how it's pulled in all of the information, including the field title, the column titles. Okay, so everything looks good so far. So I want to go to Next. Now from here, what kvCore will do is they will take that information that I'm importing, and they're going to go ahead and match it up to the fields in kvCore. Now you're using a template that kvCore produced, with the idea being that if you have 34 fields to be matched, by using that template, most of that heavy lifting should be done for you at this screen. And it is. You'll see that kvCore is automatically acknowledging that they've matched 33 of those 34 fields. Okay, so there are 34 columns on that template. It looks like I only have 1 column that needs to be addressed that doesn't have a match. The way that I can find out what that is I just click on this Unmatched Fields. So it's telling me that it sees lead type in my template, but doesn't know exactly where to put that in kvCore. So I'm going to help this import out and address that. The other thing that you do have the ability to do is if you see something that isn't matching up the way that you want it to, you can edit it here. So let's say for some reason we noticed that the first name and the last name were reversed. You can just simply click on the drop down and change the field that's going to be pulling into the first name field in your kvCore. Okay, I'm happy obviously with the first name field, so I'm not looking to make any change there. Okay, but I do want to address this lead type currently showing as an unmatched field. To fix that, I'm going to scroll down and you'll see all of these fields, how they're pulling in. If there's data here in the box, that references the column title that's pulling in from the template. I'm going to scroll down. Now here's the email, phone, and text options. I think I went right over. Yep, here we go. Where I wanted to go was I was looking for this section called Deal. And do you see where it says lead type, but there's no data in the field? What I'm going to do is go ahead and click on the drop down. I'm going to find lead type, select it, and now it's populated. Now if I scroll back up, it's going to tell me that I have 34 of 34 fields all matched. So now all 34 columns on that template are matched up to a field in kvCore. Okay. Once I'm satisfied that everything is matched and I'm ready to proceed, just go down to the bottom and click Next. So move everybody's head. Got to find a good place to put everybody's face. Okay, so now it's going to review what we're about to do. It's going to import 3 contacts. It's not going to do anything. This is referencing prior contacts that I have already uploaded. And I'm going to go ahead and click Finish. Okay. Now it tells me that my import is processing. Depending on the number of people that you are importing, it could take a little bit of time for that import process to complete. So don't be alarmed. If you have a very large file, there is a maximum of, I think, 2 megabytes per file. So if you have, thousands of contacts, recognize that you will want to split that up into multiple files and import them in chunks, if you will, in pieces, so that you get everybody uploaded without issue or error. Okay. So once you have those, you'll see that this status references one of those 8 status selections that you could make in kvCore. So just as a reminder, it would be one of these 8 items and only one of these 8 items. Let's say at some point that my contact changes. I put in myself as a test, and I encourage you to do this, to put in another email address, something that's not associated with your EXP email, but a test contact that you can leverage so that if you want to try out a new campaign, if you want to see, one of the first things that I did campaign-wise was I built a newsletter that I could share with my team, but I wanted to see what that experience was on the receiving end before I sent out my first edition broadly. So I entered a test agent, which is myself, just with an alternate email address. Let's take a look at myself. Let's say right now I'm in as an active lead that I'm using as a test. Let's say I want to change the status to a client. I can just click on the name and it'll open the profile for this particular client. It'll tell me all of the activity that has taken place with that client, if I've added detail, removed detail, if I've made notes about contact that I've had with that client. It will all be referenced and timed out, outlined here, right on this dashboard page. Okay, I can go ahead in and add hashtags for this particular client. So if I wanted to add them as an April birthday, and just press enter. Now I've gone ahead and added that hashtag for this lead. Then I can go ahead and say I want to change the status from an active client to, an active lead to a client. And I can go ahead and do that here, right at the top. You'll see that it's called Client Journey. Okay, so these are some of the things that you can do to build the profile as you continue to touch and reach out to this client. You can document everything that you're doing with that person in real time. That way, if you need a refresher, the information is all right here. The idea is to utilize kvCore as much as possible and be as automated as possible so that you don't end up with Post-it notes and scratch paper everywhere and rely solely on memory. And then also leverage the automation of kvCore so that kvCore is doing some of the work for you to regularly reach out to these clients in a variety of ways. Okay. What I can do here is just go ahead and close it out. And then when I go back to my list, you'll see that my status here has now been changed to client. Okay. So the idea for this week is that this is where you want to get to. You want to be able to start with the template. You want to build that template out, save it as a CSV file, and then work on getting it imported into kvCore. Once you've gone ahead and imported it into kvCore, the other thing that you want to do is you can spend a little bit of time taking a look at some smart campaigns. It's only going to take you so far to have an organized place for all of your contacts. If you really want to start making this platform work for you and have it be a true lead generation tool, then you're going to have to start leveraging the campaigns as well. And the way that you'll do that is by going into marketing and into smart campaigns. Okay, I'm just going to take a real quick second, just make sure nobody has any questions. Okay. If you take a look at smart campaigns, there are going to be multiple categories that you can choose from. When it's for your first time, when you first log in here, I think you're going to have one campaign that's available to you, and that's going to be express offers leads. We did talk a little bit about express offers last week. So hopefully if you had an opportunity to hear about that content, and maybe pursue a little bit more information through Workplace and through some of the other channels that we connected you to. Hopefully that's something that you're interested in pursuing to obtain your Express Offer certification. But this is going to be the only campaign that's listed under My Campaigns, I think the first time that you log in. You'll want to go to the kvCore library. And if I click on that library, I'm going to see a number of campaigns that have been previously built by kvCore. At this point, I'm not today going to talk about how you can take these campaigns and edit them and manipulate them and customize them. I just want to talk about how you actually understand in looking at the campaign what it does and sort of how it's designed and how it will interact with your client database. Okay, so one of the campaigns that I looked at that I like, that I have an interest in, I just have to scroll down to find it, is this one, Buyer Nurture. It's a 1-year campaign. Okay, so if I go back up to the top, that's going to be our last one. But if I go back up to the top, what this is going to tell me right here on this page, before I even click into the campaign, it's going to tell me what kvCore has named the campaign. It's going to give me a 1-line description of what it is. It's going to tell me when the campaign would start, the type of lead that it's designed for. And then these two things are really important. It's going to tell me how that particular campaign is designed to touch or to reach the clients that fall into this category, this campaign. And it's going to tell me how many times in total, based on all these channels, that client would be reached. Okay, so like if you take a look at let's take a look at this second one, Open House. I'm going to show you this one in a little bit more detail in a minute, but Open House is the name of the campaign. It tells you it's designed to be used with kvCore's Open House app. It's going to start when a person signs in at an open house using your kvCore app. It's designed for buyers, obviously, who are visiting an open house. It's going to leverage text, email, and phone call to reach that potential client with a total of 14 touches built into that campaign. So let's take a scroll down. I want to go back to this one for Buyer Nurture. This is a 1-year campaign, mostly emails with a few texts that kind of keep you in the forefront of a potential buyer over the course of an entire 12-month period. Okay, there's no start trigger defined, which means that it's up to you to identify person by person when you think that somebody would benefit from this particular campaign. The primary methods of contact, email and text. So you'll see that the way that this campaign is designed, there is no phone call content in there. And you're talking about a total of 23 touches over the course of a 12-month period. So let's say you want to understand, okay, so what are those touches and what will they look like? You can simply click on the campaign name and it's going to show you item by item how those 23 touches will play out. So from the time that you enroll a new client into this nurture campaign, you can see time frame in the first 30 days. So in the first month, 4 of those touches will have come and gone. They're going to come through email, all 4. That's what this is telling you, the method. And then it's going to tell you that it's going to be in the form of an email coming from you as the agent to the contact. Each of those touches has a title, how to find motivated sellers, starter home and investment property, fixer-upper mortgages, and renting versus buying. Okay, so these are the first 4 emails. Well, what's the content of those emails? The way that you can see it is you just go to preview. When you click on preview, you're going to actually see what that email message would look like. Okay, this is going to help you decide, I think, if you like this campaign, if you feel that it's suitable for you and your business, or if it's maybe something that you don't want to pursue. Or maybe you're somewhere in the middle and you say, I really like this campaign. I like the idea of reaching someone over the course of an entire year because I know that they're going to be in the market to buy in the next 12 months, but maybe I don't want to do 23 touches. Or maybe I want to remove a couple of these emails and instead insert a phone call somewhere in the middle of that 12 months. You'll have the ability to do that, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in the coming weeks. But the idea here is just to start to recognize that these campaigns exist and are available to you. And you want to start doing a little bit of research and playing a little bit here to find campaigns that appeal to you, that you can start working from right away. Because while you think about how you want to customize or build campaigns of your own, in the meantime, leverage what's available in the library to get to work right away to start helping you generate leads, okay? And contact, have contact and have touch with your clients. If you wanted to go ahead and leverage a particular campaign, all you would have to do is go all the way over to the right of that campaign, click on Add to My Library, and then once you do that and go back to My Campaigns, it would appear in your list. So then you would have additional campaigns here other than just that one default Express Offers lead. It's not enough, though, to go ahead and put that library campaign into your campaigns. You want to make sure that you turn it on. And the way that you would do that is by coming over here to the status and clicking the button here to turn it from gray to blue. It's going to ask you to make sure. And then I'm going to go ahead and update to yes. And then you'll see you'll get that confirmation that your status has been saved. Okay. I'm going to go ahead today, and I have a list for buyer leads. I'm going to turn that on. And for today, before I do any customization, I'm going to take these three here. I have a default seller, a default buyer, and a default prospect campaign. I'm going to go ahead and add these three to my library. Just because, like I said, I want to spend a good amount of time building customized campaigns that are really unique to me. I love the newsletter feature, and that's something that we'll talk about, but that's going to take me a little bit of time, and I don't want to waste time not leveraging some of this automation. So I'm going to go ahead, now that I've added these to my library, I'm going to go ahead and turn them on. So I have the seller prospect, the default for buyer, and default for seller. And there are a lot more to choose from. Again, your job, part of your homework coming out of today, once you've gone ahead and finalized at least your first round of database upload and gotten that done, it's to come here and really start to do a little bit of exploring by clicking on these campaigns, understanding the outline of the campaign, how long the campaign extends, what the touches are, whether it's email, text, or phone, understanding the preview and seeing. So just to remind you what we've done today, we talked about how to start from a template to build your client database, how to get that template imported into kvCore, and then how to maintain that database, and then also how to make manual additions to that database from within your kvCore account. Just a quick reminder, if you need a refresher, that when you are identifying a new client or lead, you will want to make sure to identify one and only one status. You'll see that you have 8 to choose from on the left-hand column. But then you'll have the ability to identify multiple hashtags and multiple lead types for any individual entry. Remember, creativity is key with your hashtags. Make your database work for you. Don't just think of your sphere or your clients, past, present, and future, in terms of real estate needs. Think of other ways that you connect with these individuals, how your relationships have been built and can continue to be built and cultivated, and build that out in kvCore with hashtags. Okay? We also talked a little bit today about campaigns and how to get those rolling for you in kvCore. Not so much talking about how to customize or make edits to existing campaigns, but just how to initially understand where to find kvCore built campaigns, how to interpret what those campaigns mean and what they would look like to your client, and then how to get them in place so that you have something moving right away with your client database until you have the opportunity to actually step in and do some customization of your own. So hopefully this helped you get started with your template, with your CRM. At this point, you're going to want to make sure that you take action, download that template that's available to you from kvCore, build your database as best you can, and import that database back into kvCore. Remember, you can import and upload as many times as you wish. Sometimes you'll be forced to do that in multiple steps if you have a rather large list of contacts. Also, make sure that you're contemplating and really thinking about how to leverage that hashtag functionality. Can't emphasize enough, creativity is key. Well, that's it for our week 3 session on how to create your CRM database. Look forward to the next session, session 4, where we're going to talk about a really impressive module in kvCore called Core Present for building interactive, intuitive, and highly technologically functional CMAs. Thanks so much for joining us.